Hi, my name is Robert. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. Today while on the road, I decided to check and see how far my odometer is off from reality. Over here I got my scan gauge hooked up and I counted 100 miles. Took a picture of the cluster, and I noticed that I'm probably 3.5% off on my odometer reading. I pulled my GPS thing up and I marked a spot on one of those mile marker tags on the road so that when I arrived 100 miles on my scan gauge, I can do the same thing and measure actual GPS distance with the distance on my scan gauge mile marker. A lot of people don't know this, but on the scan gauge, you can actually calibrate the miles per hour setting with the tread amount on your tires. So my scan gauge is reading 77 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour because I'm picking up speed, and my odometer is reading 76 miles an hour. So it's reading 76 there and 80 there. That's almost a 4 mile an hour error. Well, you could pull up your GPS location on your phone through your GPS navigator or just a GPS app, and you can read your actual speed according to the satellites. So when I pull up my speed on my phone according to the satellites, my scan gauge is more accurate than my odometer on the dash. So on your scan gauge, you go to your menu and you go more and you go setup. In your setup, you want to go over to advanced settings, then you go to speed, and right now it's calibrated for 78 to equal 78, or you can add or subtract from that to compensate for your tire size or tire wear. I've had that adjusted in the past, but right now it seems to be set good with the car's ECU, but it's a little bit off on the odometer. Once I'm done traveling for the day, I'll run those numbers and see what my actual distance is, error between the actual GPS distance and my scan gauge difference with my travel here. Another way to check your scan gauge is watch the mileage until it changes. As soon as it changes, you can look at your mile marker signs on the side of the road. This particular state that I'm in now, wow, it looks like I have a paraglider up there. But this state gives mile markers, and I'm in Missouri, it gives mile markers in tenths. So as soon as that changes to 350 miles, I can check the 10th setting on the actual highway marker there. So probably another, there it goes, it just changed. So now I'm gonna look at the mile marker, it says 42.4. So when it changes to 351, it should say 43.4. So it just turned 351. My next mile marker is 43.6. I crossed the bridge, so that threw my numbers off. They didn't put a marker on the bridge. So let me try it again when it goes to 352. I think you'll get a more accurate reading if you do this like in a 10-mile increment instead of a 1-mile increment. That gives you more margin for error along the highway route. You could do the same thing with your odometer there. As soon as it turns to 61, it was 44.4, and we can see what it gets to when we reach 871. Pretty soon it's going to change to 353, and we'll check the marker on the road then. Just turned to 353, and the mile marker was 45.4. At any rate, I did a system check with 100 miles driving distance, so I'll run those numbers and let you know what I came up with. Starting off the day, leaving Nashville, Indiana, stayed at a Best Western here. The Cubs and Cardinals playoffs pushed us further out of St. Louis than I expected last night, but this little hotel here, Best Western, had a little lake in the back, and it was on the scale of 1 to 5 for a quick stop motel. I guess it was about a 3 or 4. I believe this is maybe exit 50 outside of St. Louis on 64. No, it's not 64. Let me figure out what highway this is. But we're going to Louisville, stop at a junkyard, look for some crossbars, supports I forgot in Albuquerque, then we're heading up to Cincinnati. Yes, it actually is Highway 64. So Highway 64 towards Louisville out of St. Louis, exit 50. Anytime a city has a big event like playoff baseball, freaking superstar music concert or something like that, all the in-town hotels jack their prices up because they can. And if you want to pay a reasonable price, you got to go 20 miles or so outside of town. So at any rate, we had a decent night rest, didn't push ourselves too far, and we're moving on today. I'm in the pull apart in Louisville, Kentucky, looking for a Volvo wagon with some roof racks on it. I've seen several nice Volvos, nice interiors, nice paints, even seen one with a nice hood. If I still needed one, I would have got it. Decent seats. So let me keep looking so I can get out of here and get up to Cincinnati. Is that even legal? Drive down the interstate with no door on your truck? I'm in the U-Pull-It looking for a few things. Wheels is one thing. Another thing I'm looking for is good seat covers. Since I'm up in the Northeast, I'm also looking for a roof rack for my wagon since I left mine. The U-Pull-In pay I left didn't have what I was looking for. So now I'm at a independent pull-apart place, and it seems to have a few good selections of Volvos here. Man, look at here. Nice custom C70 seat covers. I guess this might be a 98 or 99 C70. And Bessler's U-Pull-You-Save near, I guess it's Franklin, Kentucky, or Cincinnati, Ohio. Those look really good. In this video, I want to talk to you about making a nice, safe, comfortable road trip. Many of you know that I travel a lot. I've actually been across the country in a vehicle 15 times in 15 months. That's a lot of road trips. In those road trips, I've had 2 instances that could have left me stranded. So I want to give you the top tips to help you make a safe and comfortable road trip. In those 2 instances that I had issues, they probably may not have been avoided, maybe could have been avoided, but these tips I'm going to share with you will help you get past those things and hopefully help you have a good, safe, comfortable trip. If you have a vehicle that you're about to take on a road trip, you're familiar with the vehicle, it's well maintained, it's your vehicle, you can probably look at the link below to show you the quick way that I get on the road. I seldom do these kind of checks. These are really checks that you want to make when you're taking a vehicle on a road trip that you're not familiar with or that you just purchased. Number 10, you want to clean the vehicle and get rid of anything from inside the vehicle that you don't need. You don't need to take a bunch of dead weight on a road trip. Tools, car parts, laundry, shopping things, stuff like that. You don't need the extra weight on the road trip. So take the car, clean it out, vacuum it out, and start the road trip with a relatively neat car. Number 9, try to find out the general maintenance history of the car. For instance, if the car has a timing belt, try to find out if that timing belt is within operational limits. If the car has some other things that should be done, like belts replaced, you want to take a look at those belts and things like that. One surefire way to get stranded on the road is to have a fan belt or some other kind of belt break. You see down there, this one has a serpentine belt that encompasses everything. Those belts need to be in good condition and have little or no cracks. Some of these belts are allowed to have 40 cracks per inch. If I look at a belt that has a bunch of cracks on it, it's not going on no trip with me. So, you want to find out the general maintenance of the car. If it has not had the proper maintenance, you may want to consider getting that stuff done before you take the car on the road. My general rule of thumb is never have any work or maintenance done on a vehicle within 3 days prior of taking that trip. You don't want nobody digging in the engine compartment, taking apart suspension stuff, replacing stuff on the engine the day before you leave on the trip. Because if something goes wrong, you're on the road and you may not find out that something's wrong until the car's been started a few times and you figure out it's leaking. So try not to get anything done to the vehicle within 3 days, preferably within 7 days of making a road trip. Number 8, you want to check your fluid levels. Make sure your coolant level is good. Make sure your brake fluid level is good. Pull your oil dipstick. Make sure that level is good. But you have to wipe the dipstick off, push it back in, pull it out, check the level. Check your power steering fluid. Make sure that level is good. You want to make sure that your coolant level, your oil level, and your power steering level, brake fluid levels are all good. Number 7, you want to check the vehicle for leaks. Start the car while the car is running with the air conditioning off. Look under the vehicle and make sure that nothing is dripping. You should have no oil leaks, no coolant leaks. You could drive the car for a few minutes, park it in a dry spot, let it run for 5 minutes, shut the car off, let it sit for 10 minutes, start the car and move it. You don't want to get in a vehicle that has fluid leaks and try to get out on the road. Number 6, take the car on a short test drive. You want to get the vehicle out on the highway, drive it 10 or 15 minutes, make sure it warms up, make sure it doesn't try to overheat, come back into town, drive for 5 or 10 minutes. You want to make at least a 20 or 30 mile drive around town before you take a car out on the highway. If you don't, you may end up in trouble. Number 5, you want to check the tire pressure and check the threads. Get really down and look on the inside of the tire as well as the outside of the tire. Make sure they're not damaged. Get you a tire pressure gauge. This is one I have here. They sell different type of tire pressure gauges. Take the valve stem cap off. check the tire pressure, make sure that it's within its proper limits. Tire pressure limits are normally found inside one of the car doors or inside the fuel door. As you can see inside the fuel door, the front pressure is supposed to be 36. The rear cold pressure is supposed to be 32 psi. So you want to make sure you check that the tire pressure is within its range. You also want to check the back of the car for a spare tire. There's nothing worse than getting out on the road, you get a flat tire or something, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't have a spare tire or you don't have the tools to change a tire if one becomes flat. Number 4, you want to check for strange and odd noises. Start the car, open the hood, and listen. See if the engine is making some weird, strange noise. You may have a belt tensioner going bad, an alternator going bad, or something else going bad in the vehicle if it's making some strange noise. So, if you start the car and you hear some strange noises, figure out what it is or take it to a mechanic and let the mechanic figure out what it is before you get on the road. You don't want to get out on the road and have an alternator or some kind of belt pulley go out 200 miles from nowhere. Number 3, make sure your car stereo works. Nothing worse than being on a long road trip and the stereo doesn't work. You also want to make sure that you have music that you like to listen to, or that you have some way of playing music you like to listen to, like a smartphone or something like that. Number 2, you want to check and make sure that the lights and your signals and stuff like that work. Nothing more aggravating than being out on the road and finding out that you have some kind of light that's not working, or getting pulled over by the police because a headlight is out or some other kind of light is out that's causing you to get pulled over by the police, especially the one by your license plate. Some towns have problems with those, some don't. You don't want to find out the hard way. Number 1, check your paperwork. Make sure you're legal for the road. Get you an insurance card and check and make sure that you have the proper up-to-date registration and your tags are not expired. Some states will actually impound your vehicle if you're traveling without the proper documentation to make sure that you're legal to drive. Last but not least, once all those things are taken care of, simply gas up and go. I hope these tips have helped you know what you need to make a good, safe journey. I always tell people, a vehicle doesn't know if it's being driven 30 miles or 300 miles. All it knows is that it's being started, it's getting warmed up, it's being driven somewhere, and it's being shut down, hopefully to start again. Hope those tips help. Post if you have any questions. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.